Multicure Review returns again as I talk about more of the shows I've been tuning into during this season. From all the sequels to the new shows, I'm here to talk about my opinion on all of them and share how I feel. So, yeah, with all that said, let's just hop right into this.
Hey, Subaru! You know what'd be funny?
What?
If I didn't have research in this video, because I plan to watch it when I re-review the whole series.
I admit that would be funny, but there's no way you'd do it, right? Oh no. My house is finally complete. I spent so much time designing this place for myself, and I can't imagine having to share it with other people, especially not every single girl in my class that happened to be together with none of the boys there, which would completely ruin the whole point of this anime about me being a loner. So much for this premise. First up, we have Loner Life in Another World, a story that follows a boy named Haruka along with his classmates as they get summoned to another world. But since Haruka was a bit later to be summoned than everyone else, he ends up getting left behind with a bunch of leftover skills that nobody else wanted. And after that, Haruka's life begins as a loner in this brand new world with only the leftover skills and the clothes on his back. And who knows, maybe some of those skills will help him in the future. And yeah, that's the story summary, I guess. And I'm just gonna be honest. This show is absolutely awful. I'm sorry, it's just, I had gotten to the first episode, actually kind of enjoying it, but the more I watched, the more I got pissed at everything that was going on. From how wimpy the main character is to how the people around him act, it is just so painful. Like, I tried to sit through it and it was just so hard because it was so bad. It was awful. Like, I never thought an anime could piss me off this much. Besides maybe Fruit of Evolution or Conception, two shows I actively despise, and this has gone up there with them because this show is so painful to sit through. And it's not just because of how much a pushover Haruka as a main character is, but also from how all the girls in his class act, because without really going into too much detail, there's one point in the story where, for some reason, the whole class splits up, and when they run into Haruka, it just so happens that only the girls of the class happen to find him. None of the boys. The boys have all split off into their own groups. Just all of the girls. Every single girl in his class is together, and they all just hang out with him and are like, yeah, we gotta travel with Haruka, and if he tries to leave, we're gonna force him to come back because we want him to be here, even though we also tell him we want to survive on our own, and it's so stupid. And because Haruka is so much of a pushover, he just rolls with it. He doesn't try to fight back. He doesn't try to go like, well, actually, I want to be a loner. That's literally the whole premise of the show. Instead, he just goes along with what they're saying. It's just like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll stick around. And even when he goes off and does his own thing, he eventually just comes back to them, and then they start grinding on him. There is literally this moment in the show where, without going into spoilers, Haruka is doing some window shopping and actually thought about doing some regular shopping. But then the class rep, this girl who honestly is the most annoying and frustrating character in this show, walks over to him and then is talking about how he shouldn't spend all of his money and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. And then she surprises him, which causes him to knock over some stuff, and then he has to pay for that stuff, and then she lectures him about doing that. She lectures this man about what she caused. What do you mean? I don't get it. It's so stupid. I hate it. It was so frustrating. That character, that class rep girl is so annoying. Honestly, I really wish I dropped this show on episode 1 like I did with Time the Knot with the Yamagami sister, whose first episode was so painfully generic that I was able to drop it immediately without feeling any remorse or regret about it. I was just like, yeah, this is not it. This is terrible. This is way too generic. I'm out. Because somehow they play like 10 anime cliches in less than like 10 minutes. Like, they just speed run those cliches. But moving past that, I ended up trying to watch this show thinking it would end up being good. Like, maybe, just maybe, he would only help them for a little bit, like his classmates. He would only help all his classmates for a teeny tiny bit, just a little bit. And then he would go back to being a loner for the rest of the show because, you know, the show is called Loner Life in Another World. And no, apparently we're done with the loner life. Listen, 2 episodes in, we're done. Now it's on to the class life. So much for the loner gimmick. That was abandoned almost immediately. It's just, I don't really feel like there's passion behind the writing of this story. It feels like the author just wanted to create a gimmick and then abandon that gimmick just immediately. And the show's whole world building isn't that much better either. The animation is pretty crappy, and the only real saving grace I have for this show is that its opening is a flippin' bop with some really cool visuals, but that's about it. Other than that, the rest of the show just isn't very good. And even though I want to give some more positive stuff on the show, I just can't, because other than the opening theme, the rest of it is just so painful. It is such a hard thing to sit through. And I'm amazed I got through as much as I did, especially with the fact that the show is constantly trying to write as if it's somehow clever in some way. Like, there is this big twist in episode 6. Well, I say big twist, but it's more like big twist in quotations, where there's this big reveal involving one of the students from the class, but I just didn't care, because we spent so little time actually developing these characters as specific characters. In fact, half the time, we don't even get their names. Half the time, we are literally just with nameless characters. Almost none of the students really have names. They're usually known as like the jocks or the bullies or whatever. Like, they're just these generic titles, and most of them don't really even have names. And so when they suddenly reveal like, oh, this guy is doing this or this guy is doing that, I don't care. I don't know who these people are. Why are you asking me to care? I don't know. You're acting like this is a big twist. Who are these people? And I just can't stand it. I really can't. And I just hate this show. I don't see myself sitting through the end. In fact, I won't at all. I refuse. I do not want to watch this through the end. And yeah. Overall, I give Loner Life in Another World a 2 out of 10. This show was really painful to sit through, and I have no plans to continue it. And so with that said, let's move on to the next show. Next up, we have I'll Become a Villainess Who Goes Down in History, which follows the story of a girl who reincarnates into the body of Alicia Williams, a villainess she loves from an Otome game. And with how much she enjoys the villainess and her antics, the girl who became Alicia aims to go down in history as the baddest villainess of them all. So with that said, let's talk about the anime. So, going into this show, I wasn't sure whether I'd like it or not, since other than My Next Life as a villainous anime, I'm not really familiar with that many villainous anime. I mean, I've seen some of them come out, but I've never really watched them. But still, I decided to give the show a chance, and now I'm gonna share my thoughts. So, while I felt like when I started this show, like when it first began, it didn't really seem that special to me. Honestly, I didn't think it was anything really big. However, as I got further into the anime, I actually found myself really enjoying it. From the characters you can't help but hate, to Alicia herself being an incredibly entertaining character, this anime just has gotten a lot better as it's gone on, and I've started to really like a lot of the charm of it. And honestly, I'm almost kind of feeling like I'm watching How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom mixed with My Next Life as a Villainess, and it's just kind of fun. At least, How to Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom in its light novel format. I do not want to compare it to the anime because I don't like the anime of Realist Hero, but all in all, I actually really like this anime. I don't think it's like the best thing ever, but for a show to just kind of tune into every now and then, I like it. I had a good time with it, and overall, I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm very excited to continue it because I've been having a great time. It really is one of those shows that started off with a kind of a mixed bag, but as it goes on, it just seems to get better and better, and I'm excited to see where things go with Alicia and her further journey as a villainess. And yeah, overall, I give I'll Become a Villainess Who Goes Down in History an 8 punchable heroines out of 10. So, with that said, let's hop into the next show, which I like to call Rip-Off Eminence in Shadow. Oh man, I just want to leave this guild forever. I don't see why I would have to stay here. I mean, there isn't a single good thing about this place. On second thought, maybe it isn't that bad. Next up, we have Let This Grieving Soul Retire, which follows our main character Cry, who is the leader of a famous adventure group called the Grieving Souls. However, unlike his teammates who are all incredibly overpowered, Cry just has crazy good luck, and despite wanting to move away from all this dangerous stuff, he finds himself constantly forced to do situations, all while everyone thinks it's part of his master plan. So what kind of situations will Cry find himself in when he's guiding people around as the leader, but also kind of being misunderstood as his master planner? Only time would tell. Now, as I said before, this is kind of like a rip-off The Eminence in Shadow, as just like Sid, everything Cry says or does somehow works out in his favor. However, unlike Sid, who is kind of delusional but also really hilarious, and it makes it hard for him to fully understand situations, Cry is kind of the opposite in that way, where he actually is way too familiar with the situations he finds himself in, and I felt like that kind of took away a bit of the fun. Now, I'm not saying he needs to act exactly like Sid to be an enjoyable protagonist, but a part of me wishes, oh my, that he was a bit more carefree because his constant nervous personality is only funny for so long, and by the time I reached the halfway point, honestly, this started to get a bit old. The joke started to get a bit old as he just kept going like, I didn't mean to do this, oh, what am I doing, oh man, oh, what did I do, oh man, I'm so stressed. Like, it got old. It got old over time, but it's not the worst show ever, and while I definitely think it could be funnier, it's fine for what it is, and it's still enjoyable nonetheless. And that's why I give Let This Grieving Soul Retire a 7 out of 10. With that done, let's get into the first sequel on this list. Next, we got Spirit Chronicles Season 2, the second season to a show I had quite a high regard for when it first came out. Now, are my feelings the same for the first season as they were before? Probably not, but I still think I enjoy it. So, moving past that, let's talk about the second season. So, taking place after Ryo saves his sensei from a forced wedding, he finds himself running into people from his previous life who have mysteriously been summoned to this world. And as he tries to figure out what exactly is going on, he takes in these visitors from his old world while trying to keep his identity hidden from those he remembers from his past. But where exactly would all this lead? The only way was to tune in to find out. Now, there are some things I noticed about this season that definitely make it a bit harder to watch. First and foremost is the animation. Now, I don't believe the first season had very good animation either. However, things only seem to be worse for this season because not only are there lots of still shots, but also moving PNGs that are almost as slow as the ones for Blue Lock Season 2 and tons of CGI, which can be a bit jarring. However, even with these problems, as well as the story introducing some plot points that remind me a lot of Tsukimichi Season 2, which, if you see my review on that, you'll know how much I hated that season, I still find myself really enjoying this, which shows that as long as the story is still there, I can still have some fun while watching, even if the season also suffers from moments of slow pacing that drag on for a bit, as well as does this thing where they like split between two languages that overlap each other, which got really annoying really fast. I've still been enjoying parts of the season. While I can't say I enjoyed it as much as I did season 1, there's still some fun to be had, and I'm still liking it a lot, and I'm curious to see where Ryo's journey takes him next, and that's why I give Spirit Chronicles Season 2 an 8 out of 10. Next up, let's talk about an anime that has a rather unique creature getting reincarnated.
Let me get this straight. Because I beat you in a game of Uno, you wanna kill me?
'Tis correct, you foul beast! You must pay for the crime of beating me in mine own game!
But that doesn't make any sense!
On guard!
Joke's on him, I had an Uno reverse card in my deck. Next up, we have Goodbye Dragon Life, a story which follows a dragon who reincarnates into a human body and goes by the name Dolan as he spends his newly reincarnated life simply enjoying the small things and just kind of having a simple village life. But when he gets involved with creatures seen as monsters, what exactly will happen to said quiet life? Only time would tell. Now then, in my honest opinion, I felt like this show was okay, but it had a lot of missed potential. Like, there are tons of moments that felt like they could have had more impact, but instead the story just didn't want to do it. I won't go into detail about it, but basically there are several moments throughout this show where I felt like certain moments needed a bit more oomph to them, and everything could have been just a little more interesting. Not to mention, there's one point in the story that I felt could have been a big turning point for Dolan's character, but they just didn't do it. Thus, the whole show is brought down a bit, and with the fact that several characters in the show really lack anything more than the generic personality of Villager A or Villager B, I just find most of the characters really bland. The only exceptions that are weird more than anything are these cow people who live in Dolan's village and everyone just drinks their milk that they produce, and it's just weird to me, and it's probably as weirder to everyone else hearing this, but I won't dive too deep into that because it's just bizarre and I'd rather not think about it too long. So moving past that, the last thing I'd like to complain about is that sometimes the music just kind of fades off, like someone just used the fade out effect on a music audio track instead of actually trying to alter it around to make the episode flow more smoothly with the music, which is a bit distracting, but it's not the end of the world, and overall, it's just a minor complaint that I have, but that's all. So in the end, while this show isn't the worst thing ever, I don't see myself sitting through to the end of it, and that's why I give Goodbye Dragon Life a 5 out of 10. And now, let's go on to the second season of one of the best gaming anime ever made. Next up, we have Shangri-La Frontier Season 2, the second season of an anime I consider to be an incredibly accurate representation of real-world gaming, as well as a way to turn said gaming into a story-based format without kind of devolving into cliches and harem bait and stuff like that and overpowered characters. So that's all that is. So, what is the story of this season? Basically, taking place right after the last season, Sanraku works his hardest to obtain what he needs to unlock this special armor and weapon upgrades that are stored inside this inventoria he has with his friends. But what struggles we end up going through in order to achieve that? What sorts of steps does he have to go through in order to unlock these special armor weapon things in inventoria? The only way to find out is to watch Sanraku as he grinds his way to the top to try to accomplish his goals. But moving past that, in my opinion, this season's Shangri-La Frontier continues to impress, as despite there being a lot of grinding and meetings, the show never fails to keep me entertained, and every episode is just flying by in the blink of an eye, proving once again why I enjoy this anime so much. And with the story only getting better and better, I'm excited to see all the hilarious and awesome stuff Sanraku goes through next. And with all the different characters we've met before starting to play a more key role in certain parts of the story, I just can't help but want to sit through to the end and see where Shangri-La Frontier takes things next, because, dude, this has been so good. The music has continued to slap. The animation, of course, is great. The voice acting is great. The characters are all really fun. I am laughing so much. I'm having such a great time with this anime, and I'm really excited to see where things go next, because Shangri-La Frontier is just phenomenal. It is just so good. But yeah, with all that said, I give Shangri-La Frontier Season 2 an 8 out of 10. With that done, let's talk about the most hyped anime of this season. Just walking through a dark tunnel, la 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 la. Nothing strange to be seen here, and that's okay.
I'll give you the latest volume of Shonen Jump, boy. That is, if you come over here.
Sorry, but my mama tells me I shouldn't take these from strangers. Goodbye!
A shame. It's such a good volume, too.
Next up, we have Dandadan, a story that follows Momo Ayase and Kenta Kakura, whose name is referred to as Okarun to Momo's personal preference, as the two deal with all sorts of ghost and alien shenanigans, which usually lead to Okarun's dong or balls being stolen. But where exactly will all this lead? The only way to find out is just keep watching the show. Now, moving past that little summary, I saw how much this show was being hyped up by everyone, so going into it, my expectations were around how I felt while watching Kaiju number 8, which is to say I was having an absolute blast with it. Kaiju number 8 is one of my favorite shonen-like anime. It's such a good one. Honestly, I'm amazed at how good it was. So when people kept hyping up this show with how weird but fun it was, that's where my expectations kind of went, because Kaiju number 8 is also very weird but a lot of fun. So when I went into the show, I had that expectation. However, that ended up being my first mistake, because when it came to the stuff involving this show, I actually didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other people did. Because for me, there are a few major problems, with the first one definitely being the story that involved this character called Turbo Granny. Now, I will admit that some parts of the show are good, however, when it comes to the character of Turbo Granny, at the start, she is one of the most annoying characters for me. Like, she's insufferable. I get she's meant to be like this villain character, but I really didn't like her. And while she gets better as the show goes on, I couldn't stand her for the first batch of episodes. And once we finally got past her storyline, that's when things kind of improved to me. But during her whole storyline where she was against Momo and Okarun, I just wasn't vibing with it. Honestly, that was one of my least favorite parts of the whole show. Like, all those episodes were just not for me. I didn't really care for them much at all. I honestly was just more weirded out than anything. I just didn't like Turbo Granny, and I just couldn't stand her. I really didn't like her. However, once we got past all that Turbo Granny stuff, I don't know what it was, but something just kind of clicked with me. And after I got past that, we moved on to the next storyline, I actually started to enjoy it. Like, I don't know why, but it seemed like the Turbo Granny stuff was just this weird part that I was just not into, because once we got past that and we moved on to the next threat and stuff like that, it just got better and better. Like, I'm not going to hype this show up like I think it's the best show to ever come out this year entirely. However, for a show I went into with the expectation that I either love or hate it, I actually found myself really liking after we got past the Turbo Granny stuff. Like, once we were done with that, it all got good. Like, out of nowhere, suddenly everything started to become more enjoyable. I started to enjoy the comedy more, the characters more. The overall vibe was just way more fun for me. Like, I started to actually enjoy it. Like, I found some entertainment there. The characters were a lot more interesting. The stories were a lot more interesting. And overall, I was just having a way better time after the Turbo Granny stuff. Like, I know it's weird to say that, but I just really enjoy everything after that. Like, everything after that, I've been having a great time with. I've been having so much fun that it just feels so weird that at the start, I wasn't vibing with the show at all. And I'm thinking maybe it's just because of Turbo Granny as a threat that kind of pushed me away, because I just didn't like her as a villain. But still, overall, I do think the show, as of now, has improved massively. Now, it's still not perfect. As I said, the Turbo Granny stuff just isn't for me. It made it hard to watch at times. But once we got past that, the show has actually improved a lot, and I've gotten way more into it. A lot more interesting characters, a lot more interesting dynamics, and overall, I've just been having so much more fun. And that's why, even though this isn't going to be like my #1 favorite anime of the year, I am still enjoying it a lot. And I'm hoping that as the season progresses, I end up enjoying it more and more because I want to love this show. I want to see why everyone else loves this show so much. I want to see what's so great about it. And I don't want this to end up being another situation where everyone hypes up a show only for me to not like it that much, because I really do want to like Dandadan. I really do, because as of now, I've started to get way more invested in the show, and I'm hoping it continues to get better and better from here. And that's why I give Dandadan a 7 out of 10. That's all it is for now. I really hope to give it a way higher rating in the future, because it has gotten better and better as the show has gone on. And while I don't know if I'll absolutely love the show as much as everyone else does, I'm still very much starting to get into it, and I'm very excited to see where things go now, because I want to sit through to the end and see if it improves. And yeah, that may not be the most positive thing you wanted to hear because, you know, Dandadan's so popular, but it's just my opinion. But with all that said and done, it's time to get into what I consider to be my favorite anime of the season so far. Last but not least, we have Danmachi Season 5. Now, before you ask, yes, it is just a coincidence that my favorite anime from this season and last season are both written by the same person. Honestly, I'm more surprised than anyone, because from what I saw of the trailers for this season of Danmachi, it didn't really look like something I was going to enjoy as much as the previous seasons. However, I was quickly proven wrong, as after the first couple of episodes or so just ended up being kind of okay. Once we got past those, the story just escalated extremely quickly in a way that made it absolutely fantastic. Honestly, I never would have seen it coming, and thanks to that twist, I have been loving every single episode. Like, the escalation has been crazy, and it's been really good, although there is a recent episode that came out that I felt could have let things simmer a bit more before getting to the next plot point, but it's a very small complaint because overall I'm still really loving this season, and it's just gotten more and more intense as the season has gone on, and it's been so good. It has been so good. But leaving that beat for a moment, what is the story of Danmachi Season 5? Well, without diving into too many spoilers, this season starts off with a woman named Seirei, who has known Belle for a while now, and ends up asking him out on a real date. But what exactly will happen during this date, and what does it all lead to? You have to tune in to find out. Now, while I know that summary wasn't much, that's all I can really say without spoiling, because everything after that, after all that date stuff is just really freaking crazy. And it goes in such a bizarre direction that if you're a Danmachi fan, I absolutely recommend checking it out for yourself, because at this point in the story, things have really been up to terms of struggles for Belle as he truly learns how weak he is compared to the people of higher levels above him. And with so many crazy things going on behind the scenes, every episode, no matter what happens, I can't help but watch as things only get more and more interesting as it goes on, because, dude, this season, without going to spoilers, has been incredible. So many twists and turns, so many crazy moments, so much development for Belle and the people around him. It has been so good. I have been loving it. I've watched every episode. I have been having such a great time. And I am so excited to see how this all kind of ends, because this has had build up. The story that we're following has been built up throughout the course of the last 4 or so seasons, and it's finally being covered, and I have been having such a great time. I have been enjoying this season so much. It has been so good. I have not enjoyed Danmachi as much as this since the first half of season 4, and I have been having an absolute blast with it. Now, my only real complaint is that the Seirei date stuff took a bit longer than I felt like it should have, but still, I very much enjoyed this season, and I am so excited to see where things go from here, because this has just been peak Danmachi. It has been so good, and overall, I've been loving this season, and that's why I give Danmachi Season 5 a 9 out of 10. The story's been getting really good right now, and I'm really excited to see what they have in store next, because this story with Belle and everyone in Orario is just getting so much more interesting than it ever has before, and I am so thrilled to see where things go next. With all that said, we've reached the conclusion of this video. Thank you all for watching, and while I'm sorry I couldn't squeeze an anime like ReZero since I plan to start back from the beginning on shows like that and have like a whole re-review series for the whole thing, I still hope you all enjoyed what was here. So, with all that said, thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe to Anime Fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!